it turns out my life has been asking this question for, I don't even remember when it started, trying to understand, live into what it means to experience stress and love in our bodies and in relationships. And I was once a associate professor and asked these questions in biophysics, neuroendocrinology, physiology, and then for a number of reasons had to leave the academy and had to do so for survival, literally for this body and for my relationships, and now offer a way of coming back to ourselves when we've experienced this kind of harm.
Hi, everybody. My name's Jenna. I am really honored to be co-facilitating today with Emma and just to be in this space with you all. I come to you as a writer and a poet and a teacher. And the pieces that were in the advanced journal are really reflective of the kind of work that I do, which takes up sort of the material qualities of our relationships to academia and institutions and attempts to kind of process our experience through very kind of material undertaking of documents and policies and stuff that the trappings of what we do. And so I'll be diving in a little bit later in the workshop to kind of help us explore where language comes into play as we're working through our creative process as it relates to academic betrayal.
And knowing that a lot of us will have encountered institutional betrayal because of the very collective liberatory work we've already been doing and we want to be able to return to in whatever way that brings in. And so again, we're not retelling our stories today. It's about supporting your own sense of safety and comfort. As a physiologist, I'm just going to do a quick reminder. You will know, your body will know when you're comfortable and when you're safe enough to step into something new or step into something that feels slightly risky. Your body will tell you you're safe enough. If you can feel your mouth starting to salivate, you might even tear a little bit, not cry, but tear a little bit. You may experience yawning, even gurgling in the stomach. So these are signs that, of course, colonial living says that's not polite. Turns out all those impolite things are signs that your body feels comfortable and safe enough in that space. Anytime you're starting to get a dry mouth, just stop, sit, be, self-hug. I'm sure you've all got breath work, ways to be with yourself. So that's your choice and agency. If it's working for you, your body will get juicy, literally. If it's not, then invite yourself back into that comfort. Yeah.
Okay. A couple of things as we lay the kind of foundation for the creative work that we're going to be doing today. We would love, it's not required by any means, but we would love to know where you're joining us from today for today. So you can pop your location into the chat if you feel comfortable doing so. And I'm going to, as you're kind of doing that, pop something into the chat as well. Emma and I thought it would be important to kind of acknowledge not just our place in the workshop, but also our physical orientation to the technology that we're using as a way of speaking to acknowledging our situatedness. So in this digital space, we rely on precious resources of the land that make these meetings, computers, and phones connectable. And we acknowledge the harmful extractive nature by which these resources are obtained This invites us to consider the ways in which we can give back to mitigate this harm. We welcome the use of languages other than colonial English that we use today. So please self-interpret if you would like. And then today and every day, we want to remind everyone that land acknowledgements are a very small step in meaning, and show solidarity with global land back movements and land rematriation movements to Indigenous people here and across the planet. So we've included that language in the chat as well. Spokane, Pocatello, Detroit, Portland. Welcome, everybody.
Virginia.
Love seeing where people are coming from.
Virginia, Alexandria, traditional lands of the Piscataway, land of the Blackfoot Nation, land of the Tohono O'odham, and Pasquayaki. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're all across Tucson, Arizona, New York City. Just notice all these beautiful people who are coming in. Wow. So where we sit, where we are nourished, the land that nourishes and raises us, provides part of the anchor for this body and how we engage in the world. And at any time that you feel unmoored, kick off those shoes and put your feet on the ground. Because our body is an antenna to the world. And anytime we experience trauma, which a really quick definition is anything that is harmful, that's too quick and too fast. Because our poor body can't process it when it's too quick and too fast. And then if we haven't had the opportunity to move back into comfort, and many of us in the academic world, we do not even have that opportunity to do so. So we offer this process to just get to know your body today. And you don't have to dive deep and access the entire story cognitively. This is about being with color, and almost like if you can imagine your body is a song and it has resonance that has color and tune, motion, dissonance, and harmony. All of it is in there. So you're going to be sharing a little later. Community agreements?
Yeah, so we also would like to articulate, and again, I'm going to post these right into the chat here, some agreements. We, of course, request that you agree to these in the space of our Zoom room. We want to re-articulate that what we share stays here. And everything is offered as invitation. So as Emma has said, kind of pay attention to what's going on. This is going to be recorded, and you can do as much or as little of the process as you want. Nothing is required. We are mindful that we are on a colonial time clock, so we're going to finish on the hour, but if you'd like to stay behind and share more, please do. There will be invitations to share things in the chat. So as we go, we'll ask you to drop words or ideas as we go. And again, you can do that or choose not to. But just take care of yourself along the way, as we will also be doing. Okay. Finally, we would like to share, before we start, we want to open our process, the creative process, with a Arundhati Roy poem that I'll put in the chat. To love, to be loved, to never forget your own insignificance, to never get used to the unspeakable violence and the vulgar disparity of life around you, to pursue beauty to its lair, to never simplify what is complicated or complicate what is simple, to respect inner strength, never power, above all, to watch, to try and understand, to never look away, to forgive and never forget. So with that, I think we're going to begin our creative process. I think.
How's all that landing? Could you indicate in the chat? Thumbs up? Okay. However you want. Yeah. Anyone need to pause? Does everyone have their materials? At least the materials you want to work with. So I'll illustrate, and remember, so you can use crayons on paper. I do recommend working with water soluble crayons, color pencils, paint, whatever, because water is the element of emotion. And a lot of what we process and allow to move organically involves the use of water. So that's my only thing of explanation. So I would ask Kayla if you could switch us over to my process camera, please. Brilliant. Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to stand. Hello. Okay. So this is the brush. It's like a little cheapo 50-cent jobby. I love them. I love them. They're scrubby. I recommend you feel them. Anyone in digital space, play with brush sizes. Step 1, know your canvas. This canvas, paper, the space, this can hold anything. It can hold anything you put on it, you snot on it, you tear on it. You can rip it up and light it on fire later. Anything you want to. You don't have to bring it in as a cognitive story. It's just, know that this is here for you, and this is your space for you. I'm going to spray it down with water to start knowing that this water, I collect water. This water came from a full moon recently. So it's really full of all that delicious juiciness that moon brings in, or marama from my home. Whatever language you speak, remember the name of the moon. Bring in the name of water for you. It might even be ocean, moana. Touch it, feel it. Now I'm going to choose a color.
You can sit in here.
We okay? Okay. I'm going to choose a color. And the way I choose colors on any given day is I'll do just a quick, ground my feet in, just allow my body to find whatever rhythm it's in. Whew. Maybe feeling jagged, in which case I let myself jiggle. Let it be jagged if it's jagged. Let it sway if it needs to sway. Whatever the motion is that brings saliva to your mouth. And then I'll just close my eyes and ask, if there was a color that could represent the way I feel right now, what would it be? And then usually whatever I look at first is the color I want to use. So I chose this beforehand. I mixed up a dark blue just because I felt blue. Thought it was going to be green, maybe even red, but no, turned out to be blue. Wetting down my brush, bringing a lot of water in. And then I'm going to turn to the canvas and open up that rhythm in a circle. And I'm going to keep circling until I find the rhythm that matches my breath. And I want it to be running because this is not controlled. I don't care what it looks like. This is just about locating a rhythm that lets me settle in. I need more water. Oh yeah, that felt good. I felt like I needed more water. Less dark color, more water. Bring it in. Let it drip. If you're in digital space, just let it be as messy as you want. Now, I'm feeling the need for another color. So if you want another color, bring it in. Need more water. So much more water. Here we go. There we go. I felt like I needed another color. It wasn't quite dark enough. Okay, that matches where I'm at. And I know I'm ready to stop when my breath is coming really easily. Now, invite to the extent that you can. If you have a spray gun, go for it. Sorry, can I change that language? Spray bottle. Just let it go. And as you let it go, just notice that you are bringing the spirit of ocean and the spirit of moon in service to today. That's it. Then I stop when my breath has come to the same rhythm. I've done that a lot faster than I normally do. I might spend 20 minutes sometimes finding my own rhythm. But I'm going to stop right now. We're going to return to this because this is kind of like a body text that gives us more and more information about what is ours to know today. And we're going to work with it. But I'm going to hand it over to Jenna now.
Okay, so this needs to dry a little bit. And so we're gonna talk a little bit about something that when Emma and I were thinking about how to bring our creative processes together, which wasn't hard at all. Once we just started talking about it, it was really easy to figure out what the overlaps were. She said something that I couldn't stop thinking about, which was poetics as poetry as the bridge between cognition and the body. And I felt like that was kind of the overarching or the umbrella for my portion of this workshop, thinking about how poetry for and it's very true. It's absolutely the kind of the best way that I've been able to think about how, you know, what I'm doing when I am trying to use language to process what I'm experiencing. And as we all know, like nobody needs to tell us this, language is actually not a super helpful way to process experience. It's really limited. You know, it's a living language. All, you know, if you're working in English, it's a living language, but we know the shortcomings of our language, and there's a reason why we use the word speechless when we are full of emotion, because we often can't assign language to what we're feeling. However, for me, you know, language is the best I've got. It's the tool that I have to work with. And so I just want to talk a little bit about an image that emerged through a creative process for me when I was experiencing institutional betrayal. I'm going to bring it up on the screen, and we're going to just kind of take a look at it. It's a very simple image, And I'm going to ask you to kind of react to it in any way that feels authentic to you. So this was the piece that was published in advance. Can everybody see that on the screen? It's a light bulb.
Yes.
And I can zoom in a little bit, but then this little thing down here takes up space. So I'm going to actually keep it kind of zoomed out for the most part. But the poem is called Burned Out. It's kind of a re-upping of this notion of burned out, burned out. And it's a very simple image because I don't feel like I have a lot of skill when it comes to making visuals, but it's a poem that I'm proud of. I'm proud of what I was able to do with the image, with the visual here. And I'm gonna read it. So the poem is called Burned Out. What's the status of work orders for light bulbs in my office? And then you can sort of see the shape of the light bulb emerging. What comes to mind? I invite you to drop words or phrases into the chat when you see something like this.
Mm, 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 mm. Beautiful. Little hippie. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Disembodiment. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Disconnected. Yeah. Burnt spot.
Thank you all so much. I mean, this is really a treat actually to be able to show a poem and have folks just respond in the moment is it's really all a poet ever wants. So I appreciate you engaging with the work in this way. Um, I'm gonna stop the share here. Well, I'm gonna keep it up for a moment longer. Well, no, I'm not. Okay, I'm gonna stop the share. Maybe I can put a link to fragmented. Maybe I can put a link to the poem itself in the chat at some point. Um, but I guess what I want to kind of say before we ask you to now kind of bring together these modes is that this visual text, which kind of comes out of if you're familiar with concrete poetry, it sort of is coming out of that tradition. It was a way for me to try something new and see if I could evoke a feeling in myself that was kind of closer to the experience of what I was going through because I felt so kind of at sea with this particular experience. And so, if it feels forced to begin to add language to the visual art that you're creating, which is what we're gonna invite you to do here in a moment. Don't do it. You can write a list of words that are coming to mind on a piece of paper or in the chat or in a journal. You need not fill up the space of the piece that you just created with language if that doesn't feel like the right fit. But for me as a poet, it felt right in the moment. It felt very healing to do that kind of work. So we want you, if you are able to turn back to your image and consider how this image can kind of become more alive and more embodied as you bring language in. So you might kind of...
So we're gonna weave, like there's two things we're gonna do is work with prompts from Jenna and prompts in the creative process. Now, ordinarily, we would be waiting until this was dry. So I don't even know if this is going to work. So I have a Posca pen, but once it's dry, a really important and nourishing piece for me is to be with whatever has emerged from my body. And to do that, I take a pen and I meditate with the shapes in here. Now, sometimes I will outline the gaps. Sometimes I'll outline lines. Sometimes I am only looking for curves. And that's just where I start, and I just put the pen on, and then I keep drawing until my mind quietens down and I can ask myself, what is coming through? That's all. That's all I ask. In today's world now, I'm also asking myself, what is mine to witness and what is mine to do? Just offering, if this becomes a daily practice for yourself, this becomes a way for me to discern, or it's a way for me to stay present with all that is happening to the extent that I can and have access to, and also not be overwhelmed by it. Be able to be with it and then know what is mine to do. But today it's being with it. Tell me if you can see this color, because I feel like I really want purple on here, but I'm going to go with purple. But sometimes black works better, actually. Yeah. And I'm going to start with the really faint lines. So faint that you may not even be able to see them, but I can see them underneath my pen. And remind myself, if you're starting to do this outlining, I would remind you to breathe. Because sometimes I hold my breath when it feels that good. And the point here is find your outlining or inlining, or however you're putting the pen on, find the way that leads to juicy. Your mouth will start watering, your eyes relax, your palate drops, your belly relaxes. You might even gurgle. Sometimes you toot. You know, all the things that we're not supposed to do in public. Your audio's off, you're fine. And I'll just keep going. For a very long time. Sometimes I want to be inside. Can you see my outline, or would you like to see it close up? Let me see what close up would look like. Okay, so if I go close up, oh, that feels good. I can feel my body liking the strokes. Did that track? Sometimes I want to go big. Sometimes I want to go small and detailed. But the point is, I'm following my own body, and it tells me, oof, what feels good today. Jenna, what else would you say?
So, I think when I see this, I think about the areas of the lines that feel meaningful for you and how those areas can sustain language or be supplemented by language. So if you kind of explore some of the contours of those lines, sort of ask yourself, what is this bringing up for me? How can language supplement what's appeared on the canvas or on the page or on the screen? Does it bring up questions for you? Will it, if you're imagining a viewer, you don't need to imagine a viewer, but I can't help but always think about a reader when I'm writing. If you're imagining a reader or a viewer, what kinds of questions would you ask them? What kinds of questions are they asking of you? Does language add or even maybe detract, but in like a productive way, potentially from the image? Is there a particular sentiment that you're trying to capture by adding language to the contours of the lines? Are some words or phrases that you might add rather large and take up lots of space? So are some so small and maybe less significant, or something that the reader or the viewer has to kind of do work to find and to see? So I guess my question is, what does language add to the overall experience of you engaging in the creative process? So now we're inviting you to take that pen and perhaps start writing on the image, at the contours of lines, at the shapes of lines. And Emma is demonstrating that. So you're really texturizing more by adding some language.
I don't know if you can see all of that. And just put as much as you want on, as little as not. And I mean, clearly, because I'm holding multiple spaces, like I'm not sure entirely. Some of the stuff jumps out at me. So when I look at the shapes, I see clouds. And the key here is trust what comes to your mind the first moment Trust whatever pops in, just write it down. It might make no sense to you at all, but trust. And the minute you write down that first thing that comes in, your body will give you more gifts. It will give you more. The more we learn to listen. And this is kind of unraveling, because when we don't have many spaces where we can listen, it's like a muscle. It takes practice. So if you're not hearing, feeling, or knowing any like words that are dropping in, that's totally fine and reasonable, quite frankly. The words that, and it doesn't matter. Maybe you want to remember, was there a rhythm that emerged that you want to capture? Write that down. Were there multiple rhythms that merged? Did you start to feel your lungs moving? Did you start to notice whether you were salivating or dry-mouthed? Maybe you're dry-mouthed the whole way through. Get really, like, notice your body. Sweating under my armpits, or I'm sweating under my ears, or the ringing has stopped. All of that's information and part of your body text.